had like it was an E-machines that had 512 megs of memory, and it didn't have any memory in it actually. I ended up putting a gig in it. I ended up putting 2 gigs in it, but I forgot Windows 98 can only address up to a gig. So it had an MSI socket 754 motherboard, like old AMD Athlon 64 shit. But it had PCI Express and SATA and shit. And I was like, well, I'm gonna have problems with that because Windows 98 doesn't know what any of that shit is. And I had a 300 gig IDE hard drive that I've had for quite a few years, like a Maxtor Diamond Max 10 or something like that, 300 gig. And I use that as the boot drive because it's the only thing that Windows 98 can detect. So, the processor was like an Athlon 64 3000 plus. I don't even know what the clock speed of that is, but it's not very good. I mean, it's more than what you need for running Windows 98 anyway. So, I slapped this thing together, and I put a gig of RAM in it. I was just gonna use the onboard video. It had an ATI Radeon Express 200 video card built into the Northbridge chipset on the motherboard. And I get this thing all together, and fuck, I'm trying to find drivers for all this shit, and I find all the drivers I need. But there's all kind of IRQ conflicts and shit like that. I don't know why I keep like burping. I like can't even talk without having to burp every 10 seconds. But so I like uninstalled and reinstalled Windows 98 like 3 times, and I went on like Tom's Hardware forums asking people questions, you know, why are there so many IRQ conflicts, you know, am I missing drivers, you know, is there something I need? I couldn't install any of the IDE drivers, like the hard disk controller drivers or anything like that. And I think it's mainly because I was trying to install drivers for the SB400, like the SB400 Southbridge chipset made by ATI, and that's not actually what's on that motherboard, so I was downloading the wrong fucking drivers, which would probably correct that problem now, but we ended up ordering some spare parts off of eBay, and we got well, in my opinion, would be maybe not the ultimate, because I know at the time, like the Athlon XPs outperformed Pentium 4s, but because Pentium 4s are built on NetBurst technology, like the last processors made by Intel built on NetBurst, and the Athlon XPs were like just faster clock for clock. But I managed to find some good deals on some shit on eBay. I got an MSI socket 478 motherboard, takes DDR, so I had the memory for it already. An AGP video card, or AGP slot for an AGP video card, which makes me really happy. And that motherboard came with, of course, it has a Silicon Integrated Systems chipset. I don't like sys chipsets. They just seem to be like very low-end budget shit. But anyway, it works. Well, I'm getting to that anyway. Came with a Pentium 4 1.8 gigahertz, a heat sinking fan, which is awesome. It came with 256 meg stick of RAM, but I didn't even use that. I also ordered, because being as it was an E-Machines case, doing a motherboard swap was like an iffy thing, because I neglected to check the front panel connections, because normally it's just a solid block. And I'm not sure if the pins match up or what. I've never had any luck with it, but I know there's a certain spec that motherboard manufacturers go by for front panel connection blocks. But normally when you buy an OEM case, it like has all of them separate, like the power switch separate and the reset switch separate and the LEDs separate. But most pre-built computers you buy, it's a solid block and it just plugs into the motherboard. So I bought like front panel connectors, like a power switch and hard drive and power LED, so I can turn the thing on and off. But it ended up being that the E-Machines case was even less proprietary than, say, a Compaq or an HP, because it had separate front panel connections. They were all separated, which made me happy, but it pissed me off at the same time because I spent like $5 on the wires. But then I also ordered a GeForce 3 Ti 500. RAM sinks removed, which kind of made me mad, but oh well. Like, my fucking Radeon HD 6850 has no RAM sinks on it, so, and it's still running. I've had it for like 3 years, or both of them rather. I've had both of my Radeon HD 6850s for like 3 years. I'm sure you guys are getting bored of just hearing me talk. That's slowly but surely doing the job. The video card was supposed to be here today. I already got the motherboard and processor and the wires and shit. I got the computer put together, and I was going to just run it solely on the onboard video. But when I put the whole thing together, I got no display. It would post and boot, but I got no display. So I quickly got on eBay and, like, you know, opened a fucking case. It was only $10. I only paid $10 plus $8 shipping for the motherboard, processor, memory. I think like $7 for the GeForce 3 Ti 500 and like $4 for the fucking wiring. So it was all less than like $30. Actually, it was like $33 if I remember correctly. So $33 for an almost, you know, whole computer isn't bad. So I'm dealing with this, you know, no display problem. And I opened the case, and I'm like arguing with the guy back and forth, and he's like, oh, I took the heatsink and fan off to show that, you know, the processor and everything for the pictures of the auction, and, you know, you have to put thermal compound in order for the video chip to work. And I'm like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, dude. Just shut your fucking mouth and accept the fact that you sent me something that was broke, you know? So through trial and error, I can't remember what all I fucking tried, but I ended up coming to the conclusion that I was trying to use, at first I was trying to use a Voodoo 3 3500 video card, and that was causing the thing to not work. And I just kept like moving the memory around. The first breakthrough I had, though, was I unplugged the power connectors to the motherboard and plugged them back in, and it actually booted and posted and worked. I got it, you know, something popped up on the screen. Well, the post screen came up. So, after I got it to work, I got on there and I was like, yeah, apologies, I got it to work. You know, it was something with the power connector wasn't seated properly, and, so I closed the case on eBay, and, left the guy positive feedback and everything, and as soon as I did that, no longer, after I, you know, as soon as I do that, I go out and I turn the damn thing back on and it's not working again. So I messed around with it again and I got it working. And then, being as I wasn't getting a display, I kept having to, you know, turn it off by the power button. So I was hard parking the hard drive every time I fucking turned it off. So as soon as I got everything, I was like, I'm not going to fuck with it now. I'm going to get it to where it works, and I'm going to install Windows on it and see, you know, if I have any IRQ problems and shit like that. Well, as soon as I get it all working, the hard drive dies from being hard parked so many times. So now I got to wait on the funds to get an IDE hard drive. And the video card should be in the mail today. Anyway, that's what I did with that. Since then, I've downloaded so many games for you know, I downloaded the original version of Half-Life Game of the Year Edition, of course, Baldur's Gate 2, I think it's Legendary Edition or Collector's Edition or something like that, and I downloaded Operation Flashpoint, the first version of it, The First Soldier of Fortune, yes, Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed, yes, Hard Truck 2, yes. Um, I don't know what all. I'm gonna download other shit for it too. I'm still in the process, but that's gonna be my Windows 98 gaming box, GeForce 3 Ti 500, Pentium 4, 1.8 gigahertz. I'm eventually gonna get a 2.4 B step Pentium 4 because I had one of those back in the day and I got like 3.2 gigahertz out of it on fucking Thermaltake air cooling. So I'm gonna get the 2.4B eventually, but in the first of all, I need a fucking IDE hard drive. I'm gonna end this because I think I heard a knock on the door. I'll be back in probably like 10 minutes.